Hey everybody, Marcus here. Two videos recently produced by Sandman, quite angered me. The first video is called Cougar Story. The second video is called Don't Trust Her. Now, in Cougar Story, the person who donated tells a tale of having met a cougar through one of his gigs as a traveling guitar player. Our hero has sex with this cougar. After the fact, he learns that she has a boyfriend. Now, in spite of this new information, our hero continues to have sex with this woman. Now, in the video Don't Trust Her, the person who donated says he met some woman and, dated her for a short period of time. The second hero ends up having a threesome with this girlfriend and the girlfriend's friend who, has a boyfriend. Now, after this threesome, the donor decides to engage in some convoluted plan to continue seeing the friend of, his now ex-girlfriend with full awareness she has a boyfriend. Now, the behavior of these two men shares a common theme. They have both been complicit in enabling hypergamy. Now, I thought that it was obvious that such behavior constitutes a moral failure on the part of men. However, due to these stories coming in short succession of one another, I, may have been mistaken in believing this is as obvious in the minds of others as, it is in mine. Now, can we say that there are acts that are immoral and acts that are moral? Well, surely we can. Can we also say that if a person willfully commits an act that is immoral, then that person is guilty of moral failings? Well, this too is true. Now, hypergamy is either moral or immoral. If hypergamy is moral, then it follows that all acts of hypergamy are moral and should be applauded and encouraged. But if hypergamy is immoral, then it follows that all acts of hypergamy are immoral and should be condemned and discouraged. Is it the case that MGTOW applaud and encourage hypergamy, or do MGTOW condemn and discourage it? Well, we condemn and discourage it. From this, it follows that MGTOW do not consider hypergamy moral. If MGTOW do not consider hypergamy moral, and hypergamy can only be moral or immoral, then it follows that MGTOW consider hypergamy immoral. From this, it also follows that MGTOW consider hypergamous acts as immoral. Now, it should not be understood that possession of the attribute itself is sufficient to condemn an individual. After all, a disposition for something cannot be said to of itself make one immoral, much in the way that a disposition for, pedophilia does not make one immoral, but actions taken in gratifying that disposition are. A man is not immoral if he has a disposition for violence, for example, but becomes such when he acts on that disposition. A man is not immoral if he has a disposition for cruelty, but becomes such when he acts on that disposition. Now, in this way, a woman is not immoral due to her hypergamous disposition, but only becomes such when she acts upon it. Finally, desire directed at a woman bound by a tacit agreement of fidelity does not make a man immoral, but only if he acts upon it. There's one more note to make before we move on. The argument for the immorality of hypergamy that I just made is not one that is meant to establish absolutely the moral or immoral nature of hypergamy. No, the argument is one from the point of view of coherence in light of MGTOW beliefs. The argument demonstrates that it is incoherent to hold hypergamy as moral while at the same time claiming to be MGTOW. Though I would posit it is possible to demonstrate from, first principles that hypergamy is immoral, or more specifically, a vice. That is a much stronger argument that is not necessary for the purposes of this video. Now, let us look at the structure of a hypergamous act. Every hypergamous act has three actors. The three actors are as follows: the boyfriend, the girlfriend, and the other man. The boyfriend and girlfriend, due to the normative conventions of relationships, have made a tacit agreement of fidelity. As fidelity is the normative case in culture, such a tacit agreement is reasonable to assume, though an overt rejection of this agreement can also be made by both parties freeing them of such a moral bind. Now, such a claim is no more controversial than when a group of 5 guys go to a bar and start purchasing rounds. By accepting a drink within a round, the acceptance of the drink binds the recipient in a tacit agreement that he will be buying a round when his turn comes, regardless of any overt confirmation of this on his part. His participation is his confirmation of consent. Now, during a hypergamous act, the boyfriend has no role to play as a moral agent. He is the victim of his tacit agreement of fidelity being broken. The girlfriend, clearly possessing knowledge of the existence of her tacit agreement, consciously wills as a moral agent to break this tacit agreement. She is in full epistemic awareness of this moral violation and is absolutely guilty of a moral failing. Finally, we have the other man. If the other man has no knowledge of the relationship status of the woman due to her overt lies or lie of omission, he cannot be held morally liable for contributing to the breaking of the tacit agreement between the girlfriend and her boyfriend. However, if the other man is aware of the relationship status of the woman, then he willfully chose to become a co-conspirator, an accessory to the fact, complicit in the moral failing. Due to his non-coerced decision as a free moral agent to still choose and contribute to breaking the tacit agreement between the girlfriend and her boyfriend, the other man is also guilty of a moral failing. The third actor, namely the other man, becomes an accessory to hypergamy. Through his willful choice, he has encouraged hypergamy. As we have argued earlier that a MGTOW must find hypergamy immoral, it follows that if a MGTOW is complicit in hypergamy, he is not behaving as a MGTOW ought to behave, as he is encouraging through his actions that which he condemns through his words. Such a MGTOW is behaving contradictory to his beliefs and is in fact acting immorally according to his own beliefs. The 2 videos from Sandman showcase just such men. What these donors wrote took the tone of, well, absolute ignorance of this dimension of hypergamy. Both of these men were the third actor and willfully complicit in a hypergamous act, as both had awareness of the existence of the boyfriend. Now, we spend a lot of time in the community discussing female behavior as well as pandering behavior on the part of men. What we do not seem to cover is male behavior that completely disregards the existence of other men. Let us take some examples to illustrate this point. Those who collect our garbage are probably all men. Now, do we throw away things that can potentially cause harm to such men? Most long-distance truck drivers are also men. Do we show them courtesy on the road? I mean, the sons of single mothers, whatever we may think of the woman, are still being raised with no male role models. Do we volunteer as big brothers or just abandon these boys to their plight? These are but a few examples in which we can better live out the MGTOW spirit. The reassertion of the dignity of all men. The renunciation of male disposability, at the minimum. But to renounce male disposability is not merely to declare that one's own life has value. No, it is to commit to and live out the belief that the lives of all men intrinsically have value, and they must be respected and acknowledged as worthy of your consideration. I mean, though hypergamy cannot be socialized out of women, perhaps we can socialize men to respect each other enough to make, hypergamy irrelevant. After all, without the third actor, hypergamy is not possible. Thanks for listening. Go team.